Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Anointed Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Terry Linscott. And again, I'm so grateful that you're joining me today. We're going to dive into one of my sessions that I had in my 2023 leadership conference. And I'm talking about an ownership mindset where we're helping people that are our employees. Those are our second tier leaders, not just work for a paycheck, but actually take ownership of the company or the business or the church that they're in. Why do I want to do that? Because an owner's mindset is definitely different than an employee. An owner sees things employees never see. Owners take complete responsibility outside of just working for a paycheck. And I want to shift every person that works around me into an ownership rather than just an employment. And before we jump into that today, listen, I just want to ask you to do a couple of things. First of all, if you've never subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit that button, hit the reminder, whatever platform you're watching or listening to this on. I would greatly appreciate that if this is adding value to your life. Secondly, hit the share button. Let people know about this content, about what we're doing at the Anointed Leadership Podcast, and that we're here to help leaders grow, take you to that next level with the content that we are creating here. And lastly, man, do me a favor. Send me an email. Go to my website, terrylinscott.com, an email. Send me a question. Send me something. As I've been just communicating with some of my listeners, I'm very appreciative of the feedback that I'm getting, that how this content is helping you today. So again, join me at terrylinscott.com on my website. See what's going on there, and let me know how this is helping you. Before I come back, we're going to jump right back into this episode in my leadership conference. As I said, ownership mindset. And as you listen to this, I want you to take note of a couple of different thoughts. That the atmosphere that is generated when people have ownership, understanding that there's accountability that is happening from responsibility taken of an owner versus an employee. I did a few things in this teaching while I was in the in-person session, and I had put paper all around the floor. And people had walked in, and of course, they're not owning the business at that time. They're coming to attend the conference. But the way I did it is, as I laid paper everywhere, people would just look at it and walk past it. And I used it as an analogy that people normally in our businesses, they'll see things that need to be done, but without an ownership mindset, they'll do one of two things. They'll just walk past it and say, I can't believe it's there. Or two, they'll call somebody else to come do it because it's their job. And what we want to shift in the culture of our businesses, our churches, our organizations, everybody thinks just like the owner is not the reason why, but it matters to me that it's clean and things are put back where it goes. Taking responsibility to make sure things are done in a timely fashion. Owners think differently. They eat, sleep, and breathe the vision. They eat, sleep, and breathe the business. And it's not that you have to have everybody doing that, but when you're doing it that way, you find greater results inside the organization. Hey, join me right after I talk about this in the session. I'd like to just encourage you about a couple things. Ownership is developing ownership inside your organization. I want to ask any question. Did anybody see when you walked in like something that's just out of order? Anybody see it? Whole bunch of paper. The question is, why is the paper still there? Thank you, Brenda. Brenda begged me. Can I please pick up all that paper? Please, Pastor. Everybody's here. Can I please pick up? No, you cannot, Brenda. Ownership doesn't just recognize things are out of order. Ownership does what it needs to do to make sure everything gets in order. So I intentionally laid paper on the floor. And before most of you all even got here, Brenda got the vacuum. And she vacuumed up every piece of paper. And they sent me a video, and I said, she's awesome. I walked in here, and I put my arm around her. I said, Brenda, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for cleaning the building. But I need you to put it back. I said, oh, no, I'm not putting it back. And it ate her up because for her, this place belongs to her. I'm not challenging you why you didn't. I'm making a point that you can see something out of order and not do anything about it. And when you don't do anything about it, you have just become an attendee. You're not a participant. You're a spectator. You're not an owner. And in your business and in your organization, if you're the only one that sees things out of order and only one that fixes it, There's no doubt every person walked into this room today saw that. And there's no doubt that every person that walked into this room said, ooh, there's paper on the floor. There's no doubt that every person that walked in the room said, why is there paper on the floor? There's no doubt there's some people in this room that said, who didn't clean up the paper? There's no doubt that as everybody walked in, that it was so bright to you that you could have done one thing. There's no doubt. I'm not on you. I'm trying to teach something because owners see it and do it. Employees see it and wait for somebody else to do it. Managers see it and bark orders to somebody else. A boss gets mad and yells at everybody and fires everybody because things don't get done. Leaders understand the development of ownership, and we teach people why we don't let that go like that. Why when that sees you, you see that, you pick that up because this is ours. In your business, in your organization, in whatever you do, even in your family. If you are a mother, father, you don't let your kids drop crumbs without picking them up. You're not teaching them that it's just okay to throw it on the floor. You're teaching them, we live here. This belongs to us. We don't treat our stuff this way. We are teaching them ownership. And in our organizations, we have to teach the same thing. We have to teach this idea that this is not just my business and my organization. This is how we all grow and develop. And ownership is a component that is missing in most organizations. It's missing because of the mindset of not just the owner, but even the employees or those that are on the team have the wrong understanding. I'm here to work and get a paycheck, or I'm here to advance and grow in my potential. There's a different mindset. As owners, we look at this. I want to look at a verse here in John chapter 18, verse 10 through 11. This is right at the moment where Jesus is going out and Judas is betraying him. And when Judas betrays him with the kiss, we understand something. The soldiers go to constrain Jesus. And in John chapter 18, verse 10, it says, then Simon Peter, by the way, if you don't know, he's my favorite disciple of all time. Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. My kind of man. The servant's name was Mal. So Jesus said to Peter, put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? That's an interesting verse to me, but what it speaks of volumes is ownership of Jesus's life. That Peter was so bought in to the ministry of Jesus, he wouldn't let anything happen to his leader. That he wouldn't let anything happen to the ministry. Actually, when Jesus told the disciples, he said, it's my time, I'm getting ready to go. Peter looks at him and says, no, you won't. I got you, Jesus. And Jesus turns around and looks at him and says, hey, get thee behind me, Satan. In other words, he wasn't just calling the attitude in which he was doing it, but the appreciation that you love me, that you care about what we do. That basically what Jesus, in my opinion, is saying is this: I told you to follow me and I will make you. You follow me and I will make you. And Jesus' appreciation of Peter in those two moments only signifies the fact that Peter picked up the ministry, and we see this with a level of ownership that of protection, of security, that he's not letting nothing happen to it. He's not going to let anybody destroy it. And the moment, even though Jesus told the disciples, it's my time to go, Peter still defended. He protected. And that's what ownership does. To me, this is one of the greatest ownership verses in the Bible to Terry, because I want people not just to protect the man, but to protect the whole ministry. I want people to think about this place. I want people to love this place. I want people to understand that this is not my place, it's our place. This is our vision. It's not my vision. When you have a heart from God and you get a passion and a purpose from God, he puts that on the inside of you, not for you. It is nothing to do for me. It is to do for a people that is meant to come around me, for me to influence and impact their life, to get the best out of them, they reach the greatest potential. That whoever is drawn to me is not for me. The mindset of ownership, the mindset of leadership has become this understanding that you're here to help me. That's not leadership. The leadership is I'm here to help you. If we shift the mindset, your business, your organization, if you let Jesus in your boat, if you'll let him in your life, if you'll let him in your ministry, he'll shift the mindset. He'll ask you to follow him so that you can change everybody else's life, not so that everybody that comes to you can change your life. The understanding of ownership is this, is you as the owner must understand you're not your own. In the things of God, we're not our own. We're not here for ourselves. And if all we're looking is for people to promote us, we're not going to be leaders. We're going to just simply be a boss or a manager. We're going to be a CEO. We're going to have an entrepreneur attitude, but we're not truly leading people. What happens when you don't develop ownership mindsets inside your companies or organizations or even in your church? Even in the church world, as a pastor, even as an associate for so many years, I watched pastor after pastor after pastor develop like a business mindset, a managerial mindset that I'm managing the vision, but I'm not leading people. And what happens is when you tell people that you're here to help me, you're keeping people small. And you're staying small because you put all the pressure on the people and make sure that they're okay. When you give people permission to function and fly, it pushes you higher as the leader. And you have to understand this. The problem in most entities that say small is they don't know how to develop ownership. They don't even know what ownership looks like. It's like, and I'm going to talk about that in this first session, is that this is what ownership is. Peter understood that I'm owning and I'm taking care of this part of the ministry. I'm taking care of it. Right? So what we see here, ownership is this. It's different than management and employment. Ownership is different. Now, you're an owner of a company. How many owners of companies do we have in here? Now, we have quite a few owners of companies. You own it. You have the vision. And I'm not denying that. Like I own, I own Abundant Life today. Jimmy Squires started it. He handed it to me. I own this thing. It's in my name now. I'm an owner here. And so nobody else owns, nobody's name is higher than Terry's on Abundant Life Church anymore. We understand that. I get this understanding of owning it, the responsibility, going to bed with it every night, responsible for the bottom line. Understand, I get that. Please understand from the perspective of this thought is not that I don't get that. I totally get that. I tell people all the time, I'm not going to prison for you. So I'm putting in parameters that protect me, but I'm still going to give you permission to function. And there's a difference there. So ownership in this mindset, ownership is different than management and employment. And I want you to see it's a mindset that I'm asking you, not as the owner, but asking you as the owner to help develop in your organization. Because if your people will own the organization, you don't have as big of a turnover ratio. If you ask right now, I was looking at it, the Gallup polls said that 72% of organizations that don't have an ownership mindset have the highest rate of rollover in employee retention. If you have owner mindsets, people stay with you the longest. People will make a career out of it. Most people are making careers because of the retirement package. And they're retiring after 20 years. But people that own it recognize there's more to their own life. It's different. Management is simply task-driven. Management is task-driven. You sign a task, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure it gets done. Employment is paycheck-driven. Your frustration with your employees is because they're driven by the paycheck on Friday, or they're driven on a paycheck every other week, or whenever they're getting paid. They're driven by that paycheck. They're only there to get a paycheck. They're only there and to do just enough not to lose the job. And this is what happens with most people in their turnovers in their companies, is they're paycheck driven because they're simply employee mindsets. Now, mind you, you're not going to have every person in your organization have an ownership, but you got to have a wide percentage of that, of people that own this company, not for you, but for them. We'll get into that. Ownership looks like this. I am increase, vision, and goal driven. Management is task driven. Employees are paycheck driven. Ownership is increase, vision, and goal driven. For somebody that has an ownership mindset, accomplishments is a driving force for satisfaction. I have accomplished something. We have done something. In this ministry, I'll show you. I have a young lady, Oriana. She's here, I think, somewhere. There she is, right there. How old are you, 22? 23 now. Congratulations, she's growing up. But she owns our Love Out Louds, like all of our block parties. She owns it. She is the owner of that. In other words, everything that we do goes through her. We hired her at 22 years old. I gave that to her at 22 years old because her passion is outreach. Her passion is missions. Her passion is preaching. So what I did is I said, you own this. You develop this. You take what our heart is, what Stacy has developed, and you grow this thing. You run everything through Stacy and the evangelistic side. You run everything around the vision of this place, but you grow this thing. And every day she eats, she sleeps, she thinks. Everything that she comes and presents to me, probably 90% of it, whether I like it or not, I agree with it. Because I need her to own something that pushes this ministry further. If I have to do all of that, now she's employee driven. She's getting a paycheck or she's management driven. But if I can give her the right to make every decision, whether right or wrong, to come to me with resolve, come to me with issues that she's having, with also options to fix them and allow her to make those decisions, I am now developing ownership in her. She owns Abundant Life Church. She's not the pastor. She's not the evangelist. She hadn't even started here till 2.5, 3 years ago. But she owns a whole department that actually speaks the loudest in our own community. Her department is what really gets the name of Abundant Life known in Radcliffe. That is one of the largest departments of our church. Not our social media, not our tent crusade. We do that once a year. We do block parties 8 times last year. More people know us by LOL than anything else. For 37 years, this ministry has been here. I'm trying to get you this understanding. I could have done it myself. I could have told Stacey, keep doing it herself, but it would have hindered both of us and it wouldn't have gave her permission. Ownership is driven, let me repeat it. Ownership is driven by increase, vision, and goals. That's what ownership is. When you give people the ability to increase themselves as well as the business. You give them ability to increase the vision, run with the thing. You give them ability to establish, set, and reach goals. They're driven by that. You don't have to pay them much, and they'll still show up. You know why? Because they have developed and found satisfaction through accomplishing the purpose of God in their life. Or just purpose. Just purpose. If you give me purpose, people are looking for purpose. They're searching for what defines me. That's what ownership looks like. And the difference is managers are simply just do the task, do the task, do the task, do the task. Show up, do this, do this, do this. Employees are, did I get paid? Do I get to keep my job? Did I do just enough? But owners, not the CEO, not the one that responsible for everything, but owners, people that love what they do and they love who they do it with and what they're doing. That is a level of ownership. When they see a piece of paper on the floor, they actually pick it up. Why? Because they believe. They believe in it so much that they're even looking at the smallest detail. That's an owner mindset. I say this real quick. When I grew up in here learning how to do life, my father-in-law, he would walk into a room, I would paint the sanctuary, and I don't know about you, but I really don't like painting, but I painted for almost 30 years, and I hate it. God bless you painters. But you'd hit the ceiling, like barely touch the ceiling, all the way in the front corner of the building. He'd walk through the double door right there, and it was all the way up there in that building. And he'd look, and I don't know how he did, because I could barely see it while I was rolling. And he'd say, why'd you hit the ceiling over there? I'm like, kind of like my analogy yesterday, 9 times. You see that from here? Listen to what I'm saying. You see that from here? He said, yeah, I'm looking for everything that is out of order. My mind doesn't look at everything that's in order. It looks at everything that's out of order. My mind went, it's painted. Sorry I made the mistake, but it's painted. Like one of the first times I ever painted too. He trusted me to paint and he realized why he didn't trust me anymore. But he didn't stop me from it. He used it as a teaching point. He didn't use it on how to paint. He said this to me. I was 18 years old. He said, if that doesn't bug you, then everything else around here won't bug you out of order. You have to learn. This is what he said to me at 18 years old. You have to learn that that doesn't belong. And the quicker you learn that, the quicker I'm not as frustrated with you. I'm 18 years old. Everybody thinks that's the painting. It isn't the painting. It's the mindset that everything has to be in order. That's ownership mindsets. Employees just say it's done. Managers say, get it done, get it done, get it done. Owner says, wait a minute, it has to be done right. It's a quality about it. It's owning the quality of work, not just the work itself. An ownership mindset is the key that we have to really progress and take you from a mom and pop to a corporation. It's giving people ability to function with an ownership mindset. That means, but it takes work. It takes a ton of work. Ownership can start at any level of the organization. It started in me at 18, 19 years old in this church, in this organization, if you will, with that one thought process. But what happens is fueled. Doesn't matter if you're the custodian. Many times you hear it. You've heard the stories. People that started as custodians are now the CEOs. How does that happen? Because the custodian took the ownership of the whole corporation and grew the ladder, rose up the ladder. How do you do that? I did it. How did I do it? I learned this ownership principle. I started at a low level, but it was fueled by passion and commitment. That I wasn't painting a wall, but I was giving value to add to a vision. It's passion drives ownership. If you don't see people for who they are and what they bring to the table and what their abilities are, what their potential is, they'll never be fueled by that passion. You as the owner have to see people right where they are, what's on the inside of them, and pull that out. And when you give them permission to fail and succeed, you now are tapping into the untapped potential in people, defining the passions on the inside of them, and it's pulling them out, and now they're fueled by that. And then they're fueled by the commitment they make to you, not just the entity, because you have pulled passion out of them. You want to reduce your turnover rate and your retention of employees? Start finding the passion in the people and pull it out of them to help them grow. They will be fueled by that, and they will push you to the next level. You can't go to the next level by yourself. Impossible. You can only do what you're capable of doing. God never designed us to do it all by ourselves. Not one corporation, not one successful entity in society. I don't care if you're secular or Christian. You don't do it by yourself. You do it with masses of people. You do it with an inner circle. Jesus had the 1. He had 3. He had 12. He had 70. He had multitudes. At every level, he had somebody else. He can't do it by himself. And if you're going to go to the next level, you don't need employees. You need owners. You got to take the risk to develop people that have the same passion you have and give them permissions to fail. Ownership is caring about the outcome regardless of where your position falls in any organizational chart. If you're the custodian, you care about the outcome. You care about what people see. If you're the CEO, you care about the outcome. You feel like you're the only one that cares about it. But if you develop ownership inside your organization, everybody cares about it. Everybody's seeing it. Everybody's looking at it. Everybody's recognizing it. And it creates certain things. Here's what I want to show you something about ownership. Here's some fears about ownership. And this is what is the hardest part, I think. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, I've struggled through these things. And having the people in our team and on our staff, and not just our staff, because my entity here, my organization, the church organization, is not just paid employees. They're volunteers. For example, our Bible college that we're launching next year, which is a huge risk, by the way. Like, we've never done this. Literally, I'm the president of a Bible college with a high school degree. That just doesn't happen. But with God and the right people around me, we can do this. So here we have a volunteer, 2 volunteers developing our entire Bible college. I have trusted Tina Howard and Lori Downer to develop this Bible college. They said we can't do it ourselves. So you know what we did? We brought in volunteer teachers that are not paid. At this point, not paid. In hopes that they get paid. But they're not paid. But I'm not the one making the decisions, and not one of our paid staff members are making the decisions of this massive decision. It's giving ownership to 2 people that don't even get paid from the ministry to decide what we're going to do. I sit there and think about it, Lord, please don't mess up. Don't do it wrong. Holy moly, please don't grow. Don't run this into the ground. That's how I think sometimes. But then I recognize this one thing, is that if I'm casting vision properly and they're catching it properly and I'm stepping out of the way and just running things by me, aware of everything, so that I'm going to talk about this at the end of today, is I'm working on it, I'm not working in it. They're working in it, I'm working on it. There's a difference. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm not asking you to do something today that is like, oh, you're saying, it's impossible. I got unpaid people doing it. So if you got unpaid people doing it, why can't you get paid people doing it? If you don't promote this understanding that you own this thing, you eat this thing, you pray about this thing, you think about this thing. Everybody always does it this way. What do you think about this, Pastor? What do you think about it? This is, I'm showing you something. If you want to develop ownership, you always ask a question. You don't answer a question. Because asking a question causes people to dive into themselves to find the answer. And in every person that's around you has the answer to every problem they have. Every person around you, every person around me has the answer to every problem they have. They just want to take the scapegoat. They want to take the easy way out. They want to just go and ask the question because that no longer falls back on them. Responsibility isn't on them. It's on me. My job isn't to take the responsibility. It's to push you to discover more is inside you. And this is what ownership, and it's not something that I'm saying to you is the easiest thing, because it's not the easiest thing. But it is the most rewarding thing as a leader when your people actually, your organizational people actually make decisions for their own personal growth. Because when they grow, you grow. When they go further, you go further. Man, I hope that helped you today. I hope and pray that as you developed and dove into that ownership mindset session, we're going to jump next time in our next episode. We're going to break down the 3 things that actual ownership mindsets adjust inside of our teams and outside of organizations. I want to share this one thing that I really took away from this, and I want to drive this point home. Ownership can start at any level. I mentioned this of the organization, and it's fueled by passion and commitment. You as the owner, you as the senior leader must recognize the passions that are inside your people. When they're passionate about something, let them go. That will develop the ownership mindset in there. Passions inside of people are God ordained. God puts on the inside of every person specific DNA that are passions, they're giftings. And when you tap into that, that's where you're going to find real ownership. And so as you take the nuggets that we talked about in the session, understand this one thing: define the passions in every person that works with you, every person that works for you, and lean into that passion. Pursue that passion, fuel that passion. Why? Because that'll make it a lot easier for them to take the ownership of the vision of the organization and run with it. When they're not in friction every day, when they're not frustrated every day, but they're purposely pursuing the passion in their heart to fulfill a grander vision, that's where ownership has come from. And you will find a greater level of commitment inside of that. Hey, till next time, I call you blessed today. I'm praying that the anointing of God get all over you and your leadership. And by Jesus Christ, you're able to accomplish everything in your heart. I call you blessed today.